Who stood out for you as star players then in this game? Because Kristen Inu's getting a lot of plaudits. Kevin Brown's getting talked positively about, like he does in every Salford win these days. Is it all about the Salford players that we're going to be talking about?
No, I don't think that. I don't think that would be entirely fair. I think for large parts of the match, I thought Warrington were the better side. I thought Ratchford was playing very well until he picked up his injury. I thought Widdop was doing well, and the Warrington pack, Hill and Cooper and Ben Curry, I thought pretty much had, and Ben Murdoch-Masilla when he came on, pretty much did have Salford under a large amount of control, albeit not being able to sort of touch away from them. But I mean, I don't think you can overlook the fact that Inu, Brown, and then the pack, Dudson and McCartney and Flanagan, did a real, and Callum Watkins with his experience did a really nice job of just keeping them in the game enough, and eventually they created enough opportunities to win the game. I've got a soft spot obviously for Mark Flanagan being an ex Saints Grand Final wigger, and I thought he did a reasonable job in this game. But for me, I think Kristen Inu, and I've actually been really impressed with Kevin Brown over the last 3 or 4 times I've watched him play. I mean, again, I can't remember what age he is now, 37, 36, 37?
I mean, he made his debut 17 years ago. As an 18-year-old, so he must be 35. I think he's just younger than me.
But I mean, Watson's getting a great tune out of Kevin. He's always been a talented player, but I have to admit, I thought he was done. But Watson's getting a really good tune out of him. Having had to see Jackson Hastings go over to Wigan, I was quite sceptical when they brought Brown in as to just how effective he would be. But I think he's getting a really good tune out of him, as I say. And I think him and Lola here are playing very well together at halfback.
How much of this is Watson? I mean, he's one of the most visibly hands-on coaches, isn't he?
He's brilliant.
On the sideline there, talking to his players very regularly throughout the game and stuff. And he seems so astute, doesn't he?
It's remarkable what he's done. I mean, the team was on the bones of its arse, when the good doctor left, and fan committees and local businessmen coming round to try and keep them going. They had to get rid of lots of the best players. I mean, from last year, they've lost Jones, who was probably one of the best players last year. They lost Hastings, Man of Steel. There's not many.
They lost Griffin. They lost
Griffin.
Well, they were without Evalds in this game as well.
Yeah.
Without CO at the moment in the side, who's been a strong performer. Yeah.
So I think it's remarkable, really, and to get that squad of players to two major finals in the space of 2 seasons is nothing short of miraculous, really. I think he's done a trip, and he deserves. I'm sure Salford fans won't thank me for saying so, but he deserves a bigger gig, I think, than Salford, because I think he's done a remarkable job there.
So many great coaches of Sporting past have had roles as sort of school teachers at some point in their development somewhere along the way somehow, and Watson just seems to be following on from that sort of trend of coaching lineage. But one thing questionable in the game was when Gareth Widdop went for the penalty, or when it was 14-12. It seemed like, could they have tried to get a try there?
a bit of overcaution maybe, but the conditions were dreadful, and quite often in those conditions you think, well, it's going to be a low-scoring game. Every bloody point counts. Let's take them.
And it, of course, was a
retrospect. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a super close game, wasn't it? So, like you say, you can second guess those decisions.
You can understand it.
Yeah. What I would tell you though is that if that James Greenwood try had been scored by a team who were the favourites over a team that were an underdogs, the knives would have been out for the referees and for the RFL, because I don't know how that wasn't seen as a knock-on. Truth be told.
Yeah. I can understand. There were a few close calls, weren't there? And I can understand why it was given, but I also do think it wouldn't have been a surprise if it hadn't been. And if it had been against my team, I might have been a bit cross.
When the video referee has to go to those lengths of explaining why he's going to stick with the live call that he did on that try, you just feel like
start worrying a bit.
You just feel like there's something a bit weird here. But it was given live. It was backed up by the video referee because he couldn't say he hit it with his right hand and it hit the floor. Whether his left hand was on the ball when it hit the floor, he didn't grip it. He didn't take control of it again. It was a knock-on, but like I say, it was the underdog who scored the controversial try, so everyone's happy apart from and I think Warrington fans probably haven't even exploded over it, because it's almost like that feeling of, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah. When it's not going for you, it's not going for you. I can understand why it was given, but equally, I could, as I say, if it happened against us, I'd have been a bit cross.
But Salford, like we talked about, the remarkable achievements of this group of players, getting it back together and getting over it and staying in this game throughout. You can't say they didn't deserve the win because of how tenacious they were and how able they were to stick it all the way through to the end.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, and I think it'll be a really good final. I think out of any of those sides, it would have made a good final. I obviously would have liked my team to be there, but absent that, I think it would have been a good final. But if it had been Wigan and Warrington, it would have been a good final. But I do think this Leeds Salford game should be a very entertaining spectacle. Let's hope the weather's good.
Yeah, and lots of storylines, isn't there? So
yeah, it should be a belter. Belter.
The final between Leeds and Salford will be played on Wembley on the 17th of October, live on BBC One. Coverage starts at 1:45 p.m. There's going to be no traditional presentation at the end of the game due to the COVID irritations. So it will look a bit weird. But good luck to both sides as they play a Wembley final. The first one in over 50 years for Salford. That's first one in 5 years for Leeds, I think.
Well, that's a bit strange. I mean, when Liverpool won the Premier League last season, there was a perfectly good presentation of the trophy at the end up in the Kop and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but then you all turned into a bunch of super spreaders down the street following the bus, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, there is that, but that's got nothing much to do with presenting a trophy to Salford or Leeds at the end of the cup final. You'd have thought they'd have been able to manage that. Anyway, that seems a bit over the top to me, but never mind.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it's pulled off in the end, yeah. Okay, well, that's the Challenge Cup matches sorted. We're now going to take a quick breather, and then we'll be back with some NRL action to discuss. Blooming heck, just keeps going. NRL results. It was week one of the playoffs, or the finals as they call it down under. Started on Friday night with the Panthers 29, the Roosters 28. Sounds like a cracker. I didn't get to watch this one, but Mark Butler did, Dave.
He did. Finals footy at its best. Penrith were rocking 10-0 down and facing an attacking scrum, but they roared back with 28 unanswered points and the game looked won. But no, the Roosters managed to rally again to reduce the gap to 6. Penrith produced a timely drop goal, and it's a good job they did, as the Roosters did get over the line again, but only enough time for one desperate drop goal attempt to level. Thriller. Sounds like one to go back and watch the highlights of, Mark.
Yeah, another thriller where the favourites were behind early doors but then came back to win happened on Saturday morning. It was the Raiders 32, the Sharks 20. The Sharks had much of the run in the first half, but the Raiders stormed home after half-time with good involvement from our boys. Williams 2 tries, 1 try assist, Whitehead a try, Bateman 42 tackles. We had a fan viewing.
We did. GB said Sharks shouldn't have been in the finals. Never beaten a top 8 team all season, unlike the Titans and the Warriors. Sharks only beat Titans and Warriors because they had an easier draw handed to them. Someone with an opinion about the Sharks there, and they certainly got the comeuppance this weekend as the Raiders saw them off in the end.
Yeah, and no Sean Johnson was always going to make it hard for a Sharks team that, as rightly as pointed out, we're not in the same class as the rest of the sides in the finals this year. And then they lost Brayley, the hooker, who'd scored a try but got injured scoring that try to put them in a decent lead. But really, so they were blows for them, but it wasn't just about luck. The Raiders scored on every opportunity they got up the other end of the field, it pretty much felt like. George Williams played a massive role in this one, Dave. I know you didn't catch it, but he scored an intercept try at the back end of the first half that made it a sort of manageable scoreline at half-time, going into the half-time break. And then after the half-time, him and Jack Whiten pulled off some great plays together, both setting up tries for each other. Williams with a nice kick, dinked little kick in that kind of fell into a no man's land area for the defence, but Whiten knew exactly where it was going to be, put in a great effort to reach the ball and put it down, and then returned the favour. Whiten on a running play tips it on to George Williams, who, for a sort of crash ball close to the line, where he runs through 2 forwards to put the ball down to pretty much seal the game. There was controversy in this one for anyone who watched it. There was a big blow up about a captain's challenge that never could have been, but the Sharks thought it might have been. But whilst all that was kind of kicking off, Jack Whiten took a quick tap and scored a try that was allowed because, like we were talking about before in the Cast whole game, play to the whistle.
Play to the whistle.
But you got to feel a little bit salty if you're a Sharks fan on that moment. But I need to point out to everyone who seems to have forgotten this that it was still a penalty. The Raiders still had 6 tackles from 10 metres out, and the Sharks hadn't fucking stopped him yet, and didn't stop him again after that. So I don't think the Sharks would have stopped him anyway. So people need to calm down a little bit about how that was such a pivotal moment. The more pivotal moment in this game was the George Williams interception try. Okay. The Storm 36, Eels 24. Again, the Eels started brightly, but then Pappenhausen popped up and... the Storm absolutely nailed it in the end. 36-24 to Melbourne. And then finally, the beleaguered, scandal-ridden South Sydney Rabbitohs were able to overcome a night side that were just not in their class, unfortunately. 46-20 to the Rabbitohs. Tom Burgess with 155 metres for him, so managed to pull out a strong performance. It was also round 1 of the Women's NRL, not the finals of the Women's NRL like Sky kept telling us. It's only a short tournament, isn't it, the Women's NRL? They kind of prefer quality over quantity, and it was the Roosters 18, the Dragons 4, and the Broncos, the beleaguered Broncos, get a bit of ray of positivity through the women's side. 28-14 they won over the Warriors, so some joy at the end of a miserable year for Brisbane fans. Okay, that's it for the NRL results. We're now going to jump into making our predictions for round 15? Round 15.
Ish. Maybe round 10. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, like you say, David, guesses. And our first guess looks at Thursday night, 5:30 kickoff on Sky. It's Huddersfield, in-form Huddersfield versus Cup finalists Salford. Where do you see this one going, David? Interesting one to start with.
I think it will follow the normal routine, which is Salford will be soft pedalling a bit ahead of the cup final. Huddersfield are playing well anyway, so I would say Huddersfield by 12.
Yeah, I'm very similar actually. I think it looks like there's